begin the recording. So welcome everyone to the March PGSG and PSG Immigration Attorney General Information Session of the 2021 semester. As a reminder, this initiative was developed to increase access to immigration legal services by offering monthly virtual services free to both undergraduate and graduate students at Purdue University. And I want to thank everybody for taking the time to come, particularly during this very stressful time in the semester. So I hope that everyone is doing well and taking care of themselves. Additionally, the session, as I had mentioned priorly, is being recorded. It will be uploaded on the Purdue Student Government's YouTube page. That recording will be taken down prior to next month's session in order to keep the most up-to-date information available. Again, this is a joint initiative of PGSG and PSG. A special thank you to Student Legal Services, International Students and Scholars, Horton D. Morgan Center for Entrepreneurship, and of course the folks at Green and Spiegel for working with us. I'm gonna be including the sign-in sheet in the chat. Please do sign in. This information is really critically important for us as we continue to advocate for the continual bringing of an immigration attorney to Purdue University. And so with that, I'm going to go on ahead and do a self-introduction, introduce our collaborators as well. So my name is Madalena Nunez. I serve as the president of Purdue Graduate Student Government. And as I had mentioned, this is a joint initiative with PSG. And so I would also like to introduce Asada Gilmore, who is the president of PSG. And then with that, Jonathan Grode, thank you so much for being with us. Genuinely appreciate it. Jonathan serves as the U.S. Practice Director and Managing Partner for the firm Green and Spiegel. Jonathan has worked continuously in the U.S. business immigration law field since 1999 and has amassed considerable experience obtaining non-immigrant and immigrant visas for new company startups, professional workers, artists and entertainers, athletes, physicians, and scientific researchers. So just welcome and thank you all for being with us tonight. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Jonathan.
All right. Well, it must be a stressful time of year for all of us, Madalena, because this is our busy season too. We're trying to get our H-1Bs filed. And I think, you know, the amount of people that we had signed up today compared to other times is reflective of the stressors, right? But, you know, this provides an interesting opportunity because there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 10 people on the line. So why don't we all do like Sion just did and put our videos on. And thank you, Sion, for being a willing guinea pig. And really what I want to do is just open the floor up to you guys. I mean, there's no need to talk about generalities. There's a few of us here that I can just answer your specific questions and really just take advantage of the time so you can get some detailed information and instruction. So sure. Oh yeah, look at this. You guys are awesome. It's great to see your faces. Bobby Jane in the house. Thank you. Shari, Daniel, Ashita. It's like I'm dreaming it and you guys are all joining. It's so nice to see you. All right, well, we'll let the other people chime in and put their videos on when they can, but what's on your mind, guys? What are you worried about immigration? Is there something specific you want to talk about? You got a particular question about a friend that you need answered? I'm happy to address them. So anybody want to go first?
I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
So it's about green cards.
Okay.
So for spouse.
Okay.
And so so I know that while if I'm an H-1B and then if you know the I-140 has been filed and approved, then the spouse can get the H-4 EAD.
Mm-hmm.
And is that correct?
Depending. What's your nationality?
Costa Rica.
Oh, okay. What part of Costa Rica are you from?
The west, the Pacific coast, Punta Arenas, not from the capital.
You're from Montezuma?
No, I'm not there.
Oh.
From there.
That's the only place I know on the West Coast.
That's a great place to go.
Yeah, I have a friend who moved there and opened a yoga studio. He got sick of living in the U.S. So, So Daniel, being from Costa Rica, that really wouldn't apply in your situation. And let me explain to you why.
Okay.
Our friends like Bobby and Ashita and Sayan, I think you guys are probably from India, right? Okay, so when Indian nationals start a green card process, do you know if you started a green card process for somebody with a bachelor's degree from India, do you know how long it would take if you started today? Any ideas?
40 years.
40 years is a good guess. Sayan?
If it's a just bachelor's, uh, depending on the situation, it can actually be more than a lifetime.
Yeah, it can take up to 70 years,
Okay.
70. So there's a provision that says if you have an approved I-140, but you can't get your green card because of numerical limitations, your spouse can get a work card. And that's really was built for the Indian nationals who have like the longest wait times for permanent residency of any nationality. So you being from Costa Rica, with an approved I-140, you probably be immediately eligible to file for permanent residency. With that permanent residency application, you're allowed to submit an interim application for employment authorization. That application takes just as long to get as the H-4 EAD. So
Okay.
it obviates the need for you actually to get the H-4 work card.
Okay.
So
Do I need to have the green card already in my hand or just the I-140
no,
approved?
so it depends, but normally when you have your you normally submit the green card application with the I-140 at the same time in most
Okay.
circumstances. It depends on your particular scenario, but you wouldn't be in a position where you would need to worry about H-4 EAD. Our Indian friends on the line would, and that's why there's that added benefit. Now, that being said, there's a rule or there's a law being bandied about in Congress as part of comprehensive immigration reform that's automatically going to allow all H-4 spouses the right to work. And that would be before you even get to the green card process. So that could be beneficial.
Okay.
Hi,
And
Ann.
then,
Thanks for joining us in person.
awesome.
So
And
there you go.
one last follow up, and then what will be like an approximate timeline between, like let's say myself applying and getting green card? What will be the timeline for my wife to be able to have, let's say, a job permit?
4 to 6 months.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
Kristen, is it Kristen Bose or Kristen Bosey?
It's Bose.
Bose.
Yeah,
Okay.
Bose, like the speakers. Yeah.
Like the speakers. Where are you from?
I'm from India, but so my question is, I was not born in India. So does that make?
Where were you born?
I was born in Abu Dhabi, UAE.
Oh, cool. So that
yeah.
means
So does
that means you are not considered Indian for numerical limitations. It goes by where you're born.
Okay, but I have an Indian passport, so
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter. Okay.
It goes by where you're born. Per country limitations are dictated by your location of birth. Now you want to hear something cool, Christian? If you
Sure.
marry somebody who was born in India and they're the principal applicant, when you go to file a green card, they're allowed to assume your place of birth for purposes of wait time. It's called cross-chargeability. Cross-chargeability. So when you go on shoddy.com, make sure you list that. You have quicker access to permanent residency through employment. And Madalena, for those of you who don't know, shoddy.com, it means marriage in Hindi, correct, everybody? And it's a matchmaking website for Indian nationals or Indian speaking people. So make sure you add that to your profile. If you're already in a relationship, I apologize. Okay.
It's all right. It's all right. Thanks for the advice, Jonathan. So I also want to ask, like, so what is it? I mean, do you know anything about the expected wait times in my case, since I'm not born in India? Do you know?
You fall into all other countries because there's not a lot of people immigrating from UAE. So you would be in the same bucket as Daniel, actually, even though you're from different parts of the world.
Okay, I see. Right. And I was also curious. So I'm actually, yeah.
When you look at the visa bulletin, you would be under all other countries for chargeability purposes.
Okay, got it, got it. So I'm actually pursuing a PhD at Purdue. So I was thinking, will it be possible to apply under an EB1 category for the green card?
It's possible. I mean, each EB1 is like, measured on like your publications, the prestige of your publications, the impact factor. Have you done peer review work for
Right.
other journals? Have you spoken at conferences? I will say though, typically
Okay.
PhDs have a better run at EB1, but if you go
Okay.
into a postdoctoral program after obtaining your PhD, we typically lean towards the national interest waiver. And because you don't have the long wait times for Indian nationals, it's an easier process. The national interest waiver is like a
Got it.
step down from EB1, but it would have the same processing times in terms of a green card for somebody not born in India. So you'd be able to take advantage of
Okay.
your
Okay.
UAE-ness.
Sure. I see. Right. And you mentioned about having peer reviewed journals and publications and stuff like that. Is that like a minimum criteria for that, or I mean, how do you measure how good you are? I don't know how it's done.
I mean, really, that's one of those things where you would want to take advantage of the consultations that we offer with one of my associates or one of my partners, because they will look at your resume, they will go through everything in detail and give you specific guidance
Sure.
pertaining to your situation.
Okay. That's fine. Okay.
Good.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thank you.
Very good question. Bose. I
Sure.
love those speakers. They're really good. That's a great last name.
Right.
Anne, I think Annie or Anne, I think you had your hand up next. Miss
Yes.
Costa, if you will, please.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, different Annie. I'll get you
Oh,
after
all right.
Sam. No, you're
I'll
good.
wait.
Costa is up now.
Oh, okay, so this is me now. All right.
Yes, you
Hello.
now. Right.
So I'm from Brazil, and I'm in my 4th year PhD, and my I-20 was expiring this year in May. I already requested for an extension, and it's okay for me and my partner, but my visa is also expiring, and that's the problem because there's travel bans to Brazil now. All the consulates are closed, and because of COVID, of course. And I don't know if I can stay complete my PhD with an expired visa, and what's that? What can that implicate?
That's
if I get a job, for example, after.
That's a great question. So first of all, bom dia.
Bom dia.
All right. So here's the deal. The visa is merely a window of time in which you can enter the United States. It has absolutely nothing to do with your ability to remain in the US. In fact, some countries, when they get their visa, they get a single entry and the visa is only valid for 3 months. The thing about your status, and I would go to your International Student and Scholars Office, they're excellent at Purdue. But the thing about your particular visa classification is that as long as your I-20 remains valid and you've maintained your CVIS records, then you're allowed to remain in the United States and remain eligible to apply for OPT and that kind of thing. So you do not have to leave unless you want to. You're not forced to leave and process a new visa. Okay?
I see.
Cool.
Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Sayan Day.
Hi, Jonathan. So I actually have 2 different questions. So I'll ask one now and then let others go and then come back once.
Okay.
My turn, come back.
Sounds good.
Right. So this is also related to F2 visa, actually. So I'm a 5th year PhD student, and I'm planning to graduate by August, which is the point at which my I-20 also expires. Now, my wife, she is already in the US. She has her own OPT after having done her master's, but she couldn't get an H-1B sponsor. So she is planning to come into F2 without leaving the country. So the problem here is that they usually want to have like 6 months left on your I-20 while you apply for your F2, but I don't have 6 months.
It's okay. You can, because you're going to have an OPT after you graduate, that OPT time is actually considered F1 status. It's not a separate classification. So your
Mhm.
wife can obtain F2 status. You file it on an application called I-539. No issues there, Sayan.
Yeah, but like it takes some time for your EAD to come at which is the point at which your OPT starts. So what happens from the time I graduate to the
You're still F1. You're still
oh, I'm
F1.
still F1, so I can still apply for F2 even while I'm waiting for my EAD.
100%.
All right, perfect.
What's your second question while I have you? Annie doesn't mind. She told me. It's cool.
So the second question is a little bit, I think, more case specific, but I'll still pose it here. It's that so because she couldn't apply, she couldn't get a sponsor for her H1B. She's now coming on dependent and won't be able to work. Me, on the other hand, I am looking to finish my PhD, do my postdoc, and go in the national interest waiver route for my green card. But because she is coming on dependent, in recent times I'm wondering if it's worth not taking the OPT and instead going on a J1 so that she can come on a J2 and work in a J2, or is it not a good idea in terms of my green card?
I'm giving you the like sort of Indian head bobble here. I mean, listen, I don't know about the J. I mean, the J is great because the spouse can work and gets work authorization, but you're going to be subject to a 2-year home residency requirement.
Right.
If you get a J1 and your area of work is deemed to be a necessary skill back in India, which most every single occupation is, then you'll either need to get a waiver or go home for 2 years before you're able to switch into H1B classification or obtain permanent residency. And I don't know if on balance, having your spouse be able to work on a J2 EAD would outweigh the benefit of you trying to pursue an H1B or permanent residency sooner. If you were born in India, a national interest waiver is not really going to get you very far along. You would probably want to bolster your credentials so you can qualify for EB1, which is a shorter wait time. Again, keep an eye on what's going on with Congress, though, Sayan, because if we do get H4 employment authorization for all spouses, it might change the equation for you. But typically speaking, I don't like putting people into a classification whereby you are adding another layer of bureaucracy to your process if your ultimate goal is to remain in the United States permanently.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. But that would be a great discussion to have during your free consultation if you want to avail yourself of that.
Yeah, definitely.
And then just there was a follow-up question here from, is it Anne or Annie Costa?
Annie.
Annie, okay. I forgot to ask, so sorry, but can I renew F1 and F2 while in the United States without having traveled in Brazil? The answer is no. You have to be outside the United States physically in order to get a new visa. I apologize, but it's not happening. If you want to know about, oh, I feel like I'm showing my age here. About 18 years ago, you could do it internally.
Oh, I see.
But they ended that program after 9/11 because of fraud issues. So
I see.
So
okay.
Thank you.
How many of you were born 18 years? Okay. Okay. Annie Shi. Hi.
So I think I have a like postdoc and visa transition questions, and I believe I'm in the same boat with the Indian friends because
Well, it's not as. Are you from China?
Yes.
What part of China are you from?
I'm from northeastern China.
From the northeast?
Northeast China, yeah.
Oh, like Harbin?
Not that north, but yeah, really close. Maybe 1 hour's driving to my hometown.
For those of you guys who don't know, Harbin has an ice city that they build every year. It's like one of the most remarkable things in the world. So if you have a bucket list, I would add the Harbin Ice Festival to it. Okay, what's your question?
So yeah, my question is more like a visa transition. So assuming I got a postdoc position and I know so I need to transfer my F1 visa to another visa, maybe OPT in between. So I'm just wondering which type of visa is more reasonable to transfer and benefit for the future green card application. A J1 might be a choice, but I'm not sure that's a good.
I mean, if you can get them to get you an H1B, go H1B all day.
Right. I'm thinking about H1B, but I'm not sure. So I know the academic H1B is different from the industrial H1B, and it probably that also depends on, Yeah, it's basically I'm really blank. This is my blank field is that how should I apply the H-1B with the support of the university or my professor?
Well, I think the best thing do you know where you want to do your postdoc?
So I'm still checking. I have.
So this is what I would
Yeah.
say though, like add this to your interviews. Ask them if they're willing to sponsor H-1B or if they only do J-1. That will help you weigh the opportunities that are presented to you and make a decision what's best for you, not only from an academic perspective, but also from an immigration perspective. Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
And I would
and I'm
favor
wondering.
a program that would give you an H-1B because the J-1 is going to make you subject to that 2-year home residency requirement thing.
Yeah, and I think the following question is more like, is it possible to, if I do my like DIY my H-1B or
Can't
something like that?
DIY your H-1B because the
Okay.
employer has to sponsor it on your behalf. You're the beneficiary of a petition that they submit.
Right. I think I mix it with the green card application.
Yeah, you can DIY your green card, but you can an H-1B.
Okay, I
You
see.
can DIY an O-1 in some circumstances. That's the only non-immigrant working visa where you can do it on your own.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Cyan had a follow-up question to Annie's. Will my wife also have to leave the US when switching her F1 to OP? No. You can do an internal change of status. Annie's question was specifically about the visa, the actual visa that goes in your passport. Remember, big difference between visa, which allows you to enter the United States, and your status, which allows you to remain. Okay?
Yes, so F1 to F2 is not a visa change, it's just a status change.
You're just a status change. Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Sherry Vahed.
Go ahead.
Vahed. Where are you from, Sherry?
Iran.
Iran. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a question. I have a job offer from Purdue, and they're gonna apply for an H-1B for me, but I was wondering if I can apply for OPT at the same time and just start, like whichever comes sooner. But what would happen after, like if my OPT is approved after I already have my H-1B?
So that's a really great question. There's something called the last action rule, which says that if you have 2 petitions filed at the same time for non-immigrant status, when the first one is approved, you go into that status. So like, let's say they file H1 and OPT at the same time, the H1's approved, you become H1. If the OPT is approved afterwards, you then switch to OPT. So you got to be very careful with your order and sequence of visa acquisition. And frankly, and without knowing more about your scenario, Sherry, I would lean towards H-1B over the OPT, just because OPTs are taking forever to get approved right now. And an H-1B filed by the university would be done relatively swiftly. And you'd be working with Amanda from your international student also. She is a really, really good immigration person. She was an attorney for a number of years in the field, and she holds my utmost respect. So I think that would be the path.
So your recommendation is not to apply for OPT because if it comes after the H-1B, my H-1B will be gone.
It could be construed that way, and then you would have to file another petition to get back into H-1B status. And because Iran is such a tough place to process the visas, it can be a challenge. I would go to the school and say, look, like, let's get this H-1B rocking and rolling now. I'll pay for the premium processing. You're allowed to pay for the expedited processing if you want. That way you can have
the department will pay for that.
Even better. Lovely. So have them pay for the premium processing. And then if for whatever reason the H-1B doesn't work out, it should work out. But if it doesn't work out, you still have time technically to get your OPT filed in a worst case scenario. But I wouldn't do both at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Now that the reason why that advice holds everybody is because Cherie is going for a non-cap subject H-1B through a university. If she was getting employment through a private sponsor, my advice would be different. Okay. All right, Yvonne Chen.
Hi.
Hi.
So I have a question about reactivating I-20. So I graduated last year, but had a gap year and had to come back home. So now I'm currently outside US and I'm starting my PhD this August. So what the options gave me was I could reactivate my status or reinitiate I-20. But for reactivation, I think they didn't really specify what happened, but they just told me that it's not, they're not sure if it could happen. So I'm wondering what that process would be, and would
do you have a current valid F1 visa in your passport?
No, it's actually expired.
Then it doesn't really matter what you do, because you're still going to need to get a visa in order to come back.
Right.
Frankly, Yvonne, I think this is a better question suited for the folks at the International Student and Scholars Office, because they deal with the F1s more regularly. In my opinion, I don't see much of an issue with you getting a new I-20, but I would speak to them to see which can be done quicker. For me, it's about timing. I'm assuming you're in China?
I'm in Taiwan.
Oh, you're in Taiwan. Well, Taiwan
Right.
is great because they're processing visas very quickly in Taiwan right now. So I would ask them what is faster. I think a new I-20 is probably faster, and I would probably just use that. But Taiwan is one of 3 places in the world where they actually have normal visa processing right now because they've done such a good job in dealing with the virus. So,
Okay, thank you.
of course. Ashita,
Yeah.
Vegas.
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 Yeah.
What stays in Vegas? Oh no, that's a different place. Okay. What's your,
Yeah.
where are
So
you from?
I'm from India.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Are
So
you from like southern India?
I'm from Gujarat, like it's near Mumbai.
Okay,
The-
cool.
Yeah.
Gujarat. Yeah, I got you. I've been there. That's cool.
Yes.
All right, what's your question?
So I'm in my last semester and I've already applied for the OPT, but I had a question for H1B. So what are the things like I should know from my end, or is it something that my company does?
Well, the H-1B is a very company-driven, heavily involved with the employer process. Every year there's a lottery between March 1st and March 25th. The lottery ends in 2 days. That's why my life is so crazy right now. And you have to register your position within the lottery. And then if you're selected in the lottery, you get 90 days to apply for the H-1B. What's your major?
Civil engineering.
So not only will you get 1 OPT year, but if the employer is enrolled in E-Verify, you will get 2 additional years of OPT time, which would be beneficial to your situation. So, it looks like you're going to have 3 chances to get the H-1B, which is awesome, but it's an employer-driven process. There's not much you can do other than really just ask for it.
Okay. So
Okay.
like it's something like they would manage, right?
Yeah, but you got to be, it's important to you to get H-1B status. So, I mean, I would have a frank conversation with them, show them that you're doing a good job, get the OPT, go in there and kick butt like every other Purdue person. And then, have that conversation and be like, listen, I want you to enter me in the lottery for this year. Well, who's your prospective employer? Is it a large company or a small company?
I'm still looking for jobs.
Oh, you're still looking for jobs. Okay.
Yes.
Well, depending on where you work, I mean, they'll have more or less familiarity with the process, but it's important for you to be upfront that you need H-1B sponsorship, and hopefully they'll accommodate.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Of course, Ashita. Okay, Annie, you're back again.
Yes, so I have a question about the the passport expiration. So I think my passport will be expired about 1 more year.
Okay.
So, but I'm not optimistic about the flight between China and US. So I'm wondering if anything will be affected if I didn't.
No, but you can renew your passport in the United States through the consular section in
Okay, that's good to
the
know.
United States Embassy. So I would just do it over here rather than going home.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't even been in an Uber for a year. I've only gotten 1 haircut in the past 12 months. I mean, I wouldn't want to get on a plane, so I feel you. Once I get both of my microchips put in me from the vaccine, then I will feel better about travel. And I'll be able to communicate directly with Bill Gates, which is nice because he doesn't respond to email when I write to him. So, Bobby, you got a question? I saw you took your mic off.
Yeah, hello. First of all, thank you so much for doing this. It's really a great opportunity. I'm a student on H-4 visa, so I've been here for like 8 years, and I just saw that recently the House passed the Dream and Promise Act of 2021, and they finally got around to including the legal dreamers as well. So regarding that, I saw that do I need to maintain my H4 status to be able to classify for that? Because I was wanting to switch over to F1 to pursue internship opportunities. And
I would switch over to an F1. Are your parents on H1B? Is that?
Yeah, and also they're like our green card is in processing, but like you said, it's gonna take a lifetime under current regulations. So
just so you know, with that limitation thing, like there is bills in Congress to change that as well. So hopefully the wait time will not be bad for Indian nationals moving forward. I'm very hopeful. Secondarily, don't get confused because the DACA and the Dreamer thing may have gotten through the House, but it still has to be reconciled with the Senate. It's not law.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even rely on it.
Okay.
On a tertiary basis, F1 is way better than H4 as a student because you can get CPT, curricular practical training, you can get OPT, you can work on campus because, I don't know, I remember working on campus when I was in college. I got fired because I was the manager of the convenience store attached to the cafeteria. And it was so boring in there. I was playing hacky sack one day and I knocked over a whole display, but this was my college days. It was a little embarrassing, but I've gotten over it. I've made something of myself. But yeah, for you, I would feel better about the F1, but go to your International Student Scholars Office. They are very well suited to handle that.
And so would switching on to F1, like, would that, because I know I age out at 21 from my family's.
I'm with you.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were, I age out at 21 from my family's green card. Would switching over to F1 impact that in any case?
Not really, because there's something called Child Status Protection Act.
Okay.
If you want to analyze where you are and your applicability for the CSPA, that's what we call it. I would sign up for one of those consultations to talk to my partner because she would be able to talk more about the parameters around that. Bear with me one second. I have one of my associates here.
If you haven't done so already, I highly encourage that you sign in. This would definitely help us as we're looking to hire a permanent immigration attorney to be available at Purdue University. And so this would help us in those negotiations. So again, thanks everybody for attending.
Sheree, you're back again. What's up? Question number 2.
So I was wondering, I'm not sure if you know about the wage hike rule.
So that was actually just postponed until November of 2022.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
good. No, okay.
So you don't even have to worry about it now. There's a good chance it's going to be canceled.
Never mind.
Yeah, so you don't even have to worry about that one. Chidibe Ani Anwu sounds Nigerian.
Yeah. First of all, I'm from Nigeria. It's Chidibe Anyanwu. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm from Nigeria. I'll be graduating by December, and the anxiety is already building. And when you apply for these jobs and they ask you these 2 key questions, you've already started failing. Do you now or in future require H1B?
Well, they can't say H1B, but they'll say, do you require sponsorship? They can't ask you about a specific visa, but yeah.
They do on both.
Then that company's in violation of the law. They can't specifically state a visa classification. The appropriate question an employer can ask is, are you authorized to work for our company in the United States without sponsorship now or in the future? But anyway, carry on.
Okay, so those 2 questions, once you answer those questions sincerely, the next thing you're going to get is, well, I'm sorry, unfortunately, we cannot continue. We have But most times they throw away most of their best candidates because of this issue. So what options do we have available? And
Well,
second, what is the difference between the H1B1 and the EB2 or EB3 visas, as the case may be? Then
EB2 and EB3 are green cards, and they take a long time, so they're not really practical from an employer perspective. With respect to your question about H1B and how you can find sponsors, yeah, a lot of companies don't want to touch the H1B, but I can tell you I'm filing 300 H1B cap cases this week. Employers will hire you. You just have to find somebody that needs your skill set. Now, Cheetah Bay, what's interesting is that there's a number of recruiters out there that work with companies that are immigrant friendly. And I can't give you any specific leads, but if you start Googling recruiters for foreign nationals and things like that, you'll find people that will help you get jobs with companies that are willing to sponsor. So it depends a little bit on your major. It depends a little bit on your field. Like it's much harder for people with liberal arts than in the STEM fields and things like that.
I'm doing mechanical engineering. I'm doing my master's in mechanical
sorry?
engineering. As I'm doing my master's in mechanical engineering.
Yeah, you should be able to get a job. I mean, it's
Okay.
early days. You're not graduating until December, you know? So that might be as much of a part of it as you not finding good employers. But I have faith in you. I think you can do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Pratik asks, what are the current wait times on OPT? Does an expired F1 affect the application? Is there a way to fast track OPT? Right now it's 4 to 6 months, but they're known to take longer. An expired visa does not affect the application. Is there a way to fast track it? Well, not right now, but Congress in November of this last year authorized the USCIS to start doing premium processing for OPT and other employment authorization applications. And by pay, the rule says if you pay a $1,500 fee, it will be adjudicated in 30 days. Unfortunately, Congress mandated that USCIS insert an activation clause for that rule, which they have not done so yet. So that is why you don't have the ability to expedite it, but hopefully in the next couple of months we will. But that's a good question, Pratik. Madalena, I think I won. I answered all the questions.
I know, with 20 minutes to spare too.
It's okay. I got to teach my class right after this one.
Did Chidibe have any further questions? I see that their hand is still up.
I think that was just not taken down. Oh, Luigi Dai.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
So yeah, I have a question about so I'm probably going to be in school for like another 3 years. But I was wondering, so with a PhD, would it, like if I were to get the job in industry rather than academia, would I be able to, for example, apply for an EB visa that's like national interest waiver based before getting to the end of the program, for example, so that I could, I guess, work on.
It's really, really hard to get a national interest waiver approved if you don't have your terminal degree, like extremely difficult. So, I mean, in rare circumstances, yes. I mean, if you've been published in Nature 3 times and you've got 1,000 citations, then yeah, brother, go for it. By all means, you'll get it. But if you're not really pushing to the top of your industry, we always recommend obtaining your PhD before considering a green card.
Okay, yeah, and I was wondering, like for people who'd use the national interest waiver, would like how long does that process usually take? Like would they probably need to be on an H-1B before, like while waiting?
It depends. People who are in postdoc programs who have J1s that are not subject to the 2-year home residency requirement. If they have like a 3-year postdoc, that's plenty of time. Usually it's about 2 years with a national interest waiver from start to when you get the green card. So if you have a STEM OPT and you're not planning on traveling, you could do it. So there's some flexibility there, but you got to be really careful when you go from a non-immigrant intent visa like F1 or J1 directly to the green card, because it does prohibit travel until you get that actual permission to go internationally. So, whether you take advantage of the free consultation with us or if you get your own immigration attorney, it is recommended that you have counsel. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Cyan Day.
Okay, so we have time, so I was just thinking, like, so when you were answering my question before this, you briefly mentioned about the consultancy services for like deciding whether we want to go for EB1 national interest waiver, or sorry, EB1 or national interest waiver route and so on. So like, for example, in my case, I'm towards the end of my PhD. I know I'll start an OPT and a postdoc, and then I'll start looking at this. So how do I like decide on this EB1 versus NIW, and where would be a good place to like start talking to someone or a consultancy or something like that?
Take the free consultation.
Okay.
Because you will get like a personal analysis of where you are and what you would need to do to qualify for each of the categories.
Okay.
And one of the things I always say is like, you may not be extraordinary today, but you can make yourself extraordinary, because it's literally proving that you meet 3 of 8 qualifiers. So like, for example, one of them is judging the work of others. That sounds daunting, but if you volunteer to do peer review work, that counts as judging. It's easy, low hanging fruit, tick it off the list, move on. So, if you know what the criteria are, you can work towards building up your credentials to meet that criteria.
And do those also provide like specific targets? Like, I have some citations, some reviews, some papers, and is it something like, okay, if you can go this way up to these many citations or these many, then we'll apply for you?
Unfortunately, it's not that empirical. It's much more subjective. It's more of a gut feel. I mean, like I've done thousands of these, so you kind of get a feel for it, but you can't say, well, if I have 7 publications, because they factor in like the impact factor, the number of citations, the prestige of the journal, where you are in the author list. You can't, no matter how hard my engineering friends try, you cannot make a flow chart for this.
I see. Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Sean Lee. I heard when applying for a green card, we need to present all the tax return filing documents. What if there's 1 year's tax return document missing because you forgot to save a copy? You can always request a tax transcript from the IRS, Sean, and they'll send it through to you. So even if you don't have it, you can get it. But I would get it anyway. Even though you might not need it, I would get it.
Jonathan, I received a direct message asking if your employer files for you and you're selected in the lottery, what does that qualify you for?
An H-1B. But the H-1B still has to be approved, but that's what you get, an H-1B visa. Cool. Luigi.
Yeah. So on the tax thing, so like ISS doesn't really tell us directly. They always tell us like they can't give tax advice. But for F1 status people, do you know if like a tax return is required rather than just an 8843, like a Form 8843?
It depends on your circumstance and how much income you're making, because sometimes you don't even need to file a tax return if you're not bringing in enough income. I think it's less than $14,000 a year. I am not an accountant, nor am I a tax lawyer, so I would defer that question to a professional in that arena, but it's usually not too hard. It's usually pretty easy. So. Madalena, these were great questions today, and for a small group, it was very productive. So I appreciate everybody turning on their videos and the questions that we got. It was great to see so many of your faces. We do this on a monthly basis, so you should feel free to come back and join the open forum. Jose Capa, we'll take your question and then call it a day, because
Actually,
Uh,
Jonathan, I had received a follow-up to the
Oh.
question about the lottery and what does it qualify you for. I know you had said the H-1B, but the follow-up question is how long would that be for?
the question doesn't really apply to the scenario, unfortunately. Like when you get selected in the lottery, you have 90 days to file the H-1B for an October 1st start date. Maybe that's what the person was asking about, but okay. Jose.
Hello, thank you very much for doing this. I wanted to ask a question. I have J1
Okay.
because so I do I am question. Well, I do have to do the 2-year rule.
Where are you from?
Ecuador.
Oh, okay.
So
Quito is the capital.
yes.
But I'm guessing you're from Cuenca.
No, but that's a very good guess. I am from the very south, Loja.
Oh, okay. Well, not a bad guess.
No, it was a really good guess. So my question is related to J1 visa status. I'm doing my master right now, and I have the opportunity maybe to stay for the PhD. So I was considering doing that, but while I was checking my options, I was offered to do an internship this summer. While I was trying to learn how to manage the two things, I learned that if I stay for a PhD, I have 36 months to do what we call in J1 academic training, up to 36 months. But if I do something in between, it will be discounted from the academic training that I will have at the end.
Yeah.
So my question would be, is there a problem with that at the end? Like, will I have any trouble while applying if I get something after the PhD?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, it's kind of a nebulous question, Jose, because it's like asking me to predict what the future holds for you. But in theory, it's fine.
And a follow-up for that, in one of the sessions, the past sessions, you mentioned the waiver for the J1 visa. Based on your experience, is that really difficult to get?
It depends on what basis you have for the J1 to your home residency requirement. If you got your J1 as a matter of your area of study being on the country's skills list, it's not that hard. But if you receive government funding or if you're a Fulbright, it's really challenging, like really challenging.
Okay. And okay, go ahead, sorry.
So typically in those instances, you have to get what's known as an interested government agency. Maybe you're working on a PhD, with a PI that's funded by the NIH. They can get you the waiver that way.
Okay. And maybe a last question for that will be, like in all the time that I have to do the 2 years after coming back for the country, after the 2 years, it's like I will not have any problem if I have offered like a job here in the US again. Will that be any issue?
No, if you serve the 2 years, you shouldn't have a problem.
Okay. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. And mucho gusto.
Gracias.
Okay, cool. Well, this was a great tour around the world. I must say, we hit a couple continents, answered lots of questions. I think we did a pretty good job here, group. Madalena, sometimes the small sessions are better because we can just kind of, answer everybody's specific needs. I do encourage you to sign up if you want to speak to my partner and obviously provide feedback. But what your school is doing and offering this is unlike any other university that I'm affiliated with. It really is remarkable. So I think we should appreciate Madalena and her colleagues at the student body organizations for thinking this up. And hopefully I was able to answer some of your questions. You found it relatively interesting for a relatively complicated topic, and hope to see you at future sessions.
Thanks so much, Jonathan, and hope to see you all next month for the April session. And if there are any questions, I'll stick around. Otherwise, thank you again so much to Jonathan for all the time. Greatly appreciated.
All right, everybody, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.